Hello, everybody. Valentin Todorow from Elire here. On today's session, we're going to continue looking at the Visual Builder modifications that can be done and extensions that can be done on pages. We're going to do these in the journeys. Okay, so the first change we're going to make, we're actually going to use the Express mode to make it because it's actually something that's available in Express mode. And in the second part of the video, we're actually going to do something a little more advanced, something that's not configurable. You cannot do a business rule or layout on it, so we'll actually do it using CSS. Okay. All right, so the first thing, so we're in the journeys. We're going to go to the Explore tab, and out of the box, whenever you are in the Explore tab, you'll notice that this personal filter is applied, and we, based on our business requirements, don't want that. Okay, we want that to be off the page anytime a user comes in and sees the page. We want to have it in this type of view, but if we refresh the page, you'll see that that personal filter is always there on the Explorer tab at the bottom. Okay, so we want to remove it. So you see where we refresh the page and that personal filter is in there. So how do we do this? So first, are we on a Redwood page? So we have to ask ourselves that question, and looking at the URL, we can see that yes, we are in a Redwood page in the worker journey page itself. So what we can do with that is click on the little person icon and go to Edit Page in Visual Builder Studio, right? This is going to initialize the process where we select a project. If you did not have a project, you can create one on the fly. But if you do have a project where your workplace deployments, your environments are set up, your pipelines, you want to select that project, okay? It's going to then load the page with all of its dependencies, its components, whatever it may be, and we'll be able to modify it, okay? And as I mentioned, the first thing we'll do is let's look at the Explore tab. So you have two views within your IDE. One is the Express one, where kind of the predefined configurable pieces are housed, or any kind of field configurations or validation rules. But what we want is to remove this personal page, right? So we are on there, and you really want to do everything you can first in Express mode, and then switch when there is no options left in Express mode. You want to switch to the Advanced mode and do it that way. But this one is a configurable feature within here. So you'll see all the page properties. Many of them are toggles. Some of them are variables you can declare and or constants you can manipulate. A lot of these are kind of true false values. So if we scan this, one of these is apply personal filter. So right now it's set to true. That means it's going to be applied each time. So the simplest thing we can do is just set it to false. Okay. Once it's set to false, what we can do is we can review it, right? So there's a little play button right here next to the publish. And when you press this, just give it a couple of seconds. It's going to open up a new tab, and that new tab should render the page with that effective extension applied to it, right? So you see now the rendering, this has not been applied to the environment yet. It's only kind of reviewing it for you and showing you, oh, look, we're in Explore and personal filter is no longer active, okay? So then we can close the tab. Let's go back to the Visual Builder IDE. So, okay, that change looks great. Let's submit it, okay? Let's publish this. Let's initialize our pipelines, the build and deploy pipelines so that the changes are deployed to the environment. And within the project is obviously the environment that it's tied to. So all we have to do is click on the publish button. It's going to prepare everything. You want to describe what these changes are as part of the Git methodology. So removed personal filter. Okay, and we want to publish. And as soon as we click on publish, what it's going to do is it's going to start the process. Okay, and your changes have been successfully deployed. Okay, this is going to be a slightly different view when we go to the advanced, because it has to do a pull, make sure there's no conflicts, commit to the remote branch, and publish it. So we're done. We can press close, and now to just check that it worked okay, we can go to the kind of the working session that we have. Go back into the page. So this is our journeys. We're going to, once it loads, we're going to go to the Explore tab, and now we should not see that personal filter. And as you can see, this is what we wanted. We wanted that personal filter to be disabled. And now going forward, it will be for this environment. Okay. So these are some of the kind of predefined configurable modifications you can make to a page. Okay, but there's a limit. As you can see, this is not infinite, and it does not touch everything in each of these tabs. Okay, and one situation might be that you don't want, per your company requirements and business requirements, you don't want people to have that Explore tab at all. Okay, and that's not something you can configure within the configuration pages themselves within the SaaS application, and you cannot do it here. There is no hide the Explore tab. Okay. You just have My Journeys that might be assigned to you by your manager, but you don't want people to even look and see this Explore tab itself. Okay, and what we can do is we can hide it multiple ways. One of them is using JavaScript within the advanced mode, and an even easier way is to use CSS, and it's a great way to hide things that are not extremely sensitive. You know, it's fine if somebody is able to go through and unhide something through the CSS, but 99.9% of people will not do that. They're not trying to hack the system in any way. But we can hide it using CSS. JavaScript is a little more a safe way, but you could have impacts with other JavaScript running. So you got to be careful. You can see here we have the JavaScript for that journey landing page. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use CSS. So you could create a module in here, dump your module that's, scanning for specific span values, finding the div or the line parent to that, and then injecting, again, CSS, like a display equals none, to hide that specific region, okay? Or the dropdown, or the values, or the radio buttons, whatever it may be. JavaScript is one way to do it, okay? And kind of going back, I suddenly see these because I did switch to the advanced mode, right? We were in express mode before. I clicked on advanced, and here I have a lot more control over the page. So you can see in the page designer view, this is the page itself. Let me close the side menu here. We have the page. We still have the same configurable items that are available, okay, on the side, but you now can actually inspect and see if anything is opened up in terms of the components that are on the page. So there's different components on the page. There's a kind of the overall container, which is the main unified dependency, which is what you see here at the top. You've got a search region. You have the actual tiles region. So all of those are components here on the side. And right now we're in live view. So you see live is selected so we can actually interact with the page, but you can actually go into the designer view and effectively click and try to find this. This one is completely locked down. You can see everything is grayed out. So you can't really do anything in dropping any of the Redwood patterns, be it, cards or regions. Nothing can be touched on this. Everything has been locked down effectively, right? They'll show you the structure, but you can't really do too much with it. Okay, that's why everything is gray here, right? Some pages don't even show you the structure. Others will show you the structures, and there's others that you can actually manipulate and add to. But majority of the delivered vanilla pages, you cannot do anything to. You cannot extend in any fashion. Okay, the only two ways or three ways really that I mentioned, one is JavaScript, the other is to have event listeners on events. So maybe before we navigate to the page, after we navigate to the page, we'll have event listeners which will fire action chains, and within those action chains you can send notifications. You can fire your own JS code in there if you wanted to hide specific regions. Maybe we're pivoting off a drawer that's opening, and once that event happens, then trigger the action chain. So there's many ways to do it, but the way we're going to do it today is we're actually going to use CSS. Okay, so when we go to the settings tab here, sorry, it wasn't loaded all the way. So the settings, you'll see that we can do CSS imports. Okay, so what we can do, and we don't have any CSS defined in here besides the unified one that's already underneath everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new one. Okay, so when you press on new, you'll see that it actually does the directory path to the self resources and CSS. And we can say, let's call this the explore hide.css for cascading style sheets. Okay, and we're going to create a new, right? So we've created it, and where this goes, you can see that we now have two changes. So on this left side menu, you have your app UI, various the source, effectively the files on the web serve, and then here are the get changes. Okay, so this is all the changes, but when we go to the source, you'll actually see that the CSS, so that's the self that you saw that was predefined, resources, CSS, And then here is our CSS file. Okay, and if you click on it, it's going to open up as a new tab. And now we can actually inject some CSS code to hide that. But then how do you find what that specific Explore tab is called? Okay, best way to do that is right-click on that page and click on Inspect. Okay, each of these browsers will have an Inspect tool. Here, I'm going to use this one, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a targeting tool. We're going to hover over Explore, but we don't not only want to hide the span field or this little icon, we don't want to hide the entire line. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. It's going to highlight the entire line, and in the DOM objects below it, in the source here, we can actually see the lines. So here we can see this line. UL is the container for all the lines. Okay, and we can now see all the lines. So we could see this. Hover over the next one, the journeys, the my tasks, the team journeys, and so forth and so on. And each one of these will have specific IDs, and sometimes they're dynamic IDs, just different properties on that line. What we want to find is one that is not dynamic in nature, that's kind of static, like the might be the ID equals, might be the data ID. Okay, that one actually might be the best one. And you can see in each of the lines, the data ID, these change right here, but there it is, the data ID, org journeys, data ID, my task. So we're going to pivot off that one. Okay, this is the best way with CSS. If there was values that are buried deep in here, if you were trying to pivot off the span field that's actually representing Explore itself, this you would have to do with JavaScript, because it has to parse effectively the entire page, find all the span fields, the one that has Explore, then find the first parent or the first div that might have a class like this one, okay, because this is the class that represents and kind of visualizes this view, and then hide it, and then apply, the display equals none. Okay, but what we can just do it inline for the line itself, which is this one right here. And what we're going to do is use that data ID equals Explore. So we're going to piggyback off this. Wherever it finds this, the CSS will effectively apply a display none style to that, and it will disappear from the page. Okay, so that's what we want to do in this CSS. So the way we're going to do it is we want to do a line. Helpful if I can actually type in here. So we're going to hide a line. Okay, what is the line? It's going to be data ID, okay, equals Explore. Okay, so that is, and then what do we want to apply? Okay, and then we want to do a display, and it's great because it's got the little helper. We want to do none, and because there could be additional styles, we need to do important. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so whenever we have a line with a data ID of Explore, we're going to apply the display none style, important, close it, and that's it. Okay, and now you can see this has the unsaved changes to it. Another thing actually to note, once you're done typing or pasting something from somewhere else, you'll have this audit down here. So I always check my audits down here at the bottom. So if it opens up, you have issues, maybe there's like a log console step that's not allowed, or additional, sometimes in JavaScript, a length or var are not allowed in action chains. Whatever it may be, I always look at the audit, because this is where kind of your validation is going to happen. So everything is good. We've applied the line and the style to it. We have tied that CSS to the page itself. So now the page itself also has that property. We can see it here in the folder structure that it also exists. But because it has the use, it hasn't been committed. And you can also see this here at the top. This little yellow indicator means that, oops, I shouldn't press on this actually. You can actually commit it and push it to the remote branch. But the easiest way to do that is by clicking publish. Okay, so we can still review the page, and you play it and it'll render it for you, but I know that it's going to work. So I'm going to click on publish. And again, we have to define what this change is. Okay, so we need to keep track of these changes. Once it once your session expires, then it's a whole different ballgame. Oh man, that's a fun one. Let me see if at least kept some of this in here. Most of the time, it autosaves at the bottom. So let's see if it autosaved. Usually we make a change within like a second, it autosaves everything. So even though it said that we timed out, okay, we're opening the same project. It's got its workspaces with all my stuff in it. And now we can look at our Git repo here. And hopefully we have our style sheet in there. Still loading, we got to give it a second. There we go. Perfect. Okay, it's in here. It kept everything. Okay, fantastic. Okay, everything's, let's try it one more time. Hopefully our session doesn't kick us out again. I need to actually check that the settings have it as well in here. They do. Perfect. Okay. And you can actually see that there's two changes that we did. One is to create the file, and another one is for the JSON. So the JSON spec effectively says, okay, it's effectively these settings are actually in the JSON, and they'll tell you that we're doing an import of the CSS in this location, okay? And it also says, you know, we have applied that personal filter to default of false, okay? So actually all the settings that you see on the little true falses or any settings you apply here, the JSON file is effectively what's holding them for that specific page, okay? Hopefully this time it's a little nicer. Okay, yeah, perfect. It's doing its branching. It did everything it needed to. We're applying it to the main branch, and we're going to say that applied CSS to hide explore bottom tab. Okay, and we're going to publish. Now what's happening in the publish is you can see it's fetching, it's merging, it's pushing the changes, and it's deploying your extension. Okay. So, and that's it. And now we can see we have no new changes. And when we go to the tab, usually have to give it a second or two. When we refresh, this Explore tab, once it reloads, should disappear. There it is. It's gone. Okay. We are just on my journeys. Actually, it's still, I need to clear my cache because it still thinks I'm on that page. It should be just my journeys when it loads if you have a nice cleared cache. And then now you can see the display none has hidden that Explore tab for us. Okay, and we can always look at the deployments, so we can actually go back to VBS, which is a studio. Okay, we can look at that environment because that project has an environment tied to it, and we can look at all the application extensions and deployments. Okay. And once it opens all of them up. History 14 minutes ago, I'm pretty sure. I think this needs to be refreshed as well. I think there's some session states going on in here, but hopefully that was a good explanation of how to do a modification, or really not a modification, an extension to these pages in Express mode with everything that's pre-delivered, or how to use the advanced setting to do kind of a more stylistic modification to a page so that the user experience is more tailored for your business needs. So hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.